Hello, good evening. Can you hear me now? Good. The Gold Goats and Guns Hour. It's Tuesday. It's June 28th, 2022, and the G7 has sunk into complete and utter irrelevance, and it's kind of hilarious. Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Luongo. You're not, and General Franco is still dead. Those of you who are old enough to get that joke, you're still cool. All right. Let's see. Wait for a couple of people to get into the stream. Understand, I'm going to do this for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to move over to Odyssey. And once, hey, it's already been confirmed. And the stream is ready to go. I got ahead of myself this evening. It's actually all right. Let's do the thing. So, the G7 was this weekend. The BRICS summit was right around the same time. We've had all the major leaders of the world meeting and carving the world up into different bits and pieces, or at least one group was, while the other one thought that they were. So I find it really fascinating that people can rise to the level of power that Boris Johnson, Joe Biden, Emmanuel Macron, and others, Justin Trudeau, that they attain, and yet still have zero understanding of how things actually work, how markets actually work. It's unbelievable. So over the weekend, well, let's go set the Wayback Machine for last week. So last week, there's a story comes out, I think it was in Bloomberg or Financial Press, that, oh, by the way, Switzerland was buying Russian gold. Now, what I said then, I tweeted out at the time, was very obvious to me what it was. That stocks on the LBMA and the COMEX are physical stocks on gold and silver dropping like a rock. So, the Russians export a lot of gold because they mine a lot of gold. They don't necessarily have to export that gold, but the central bank has not been buying as much. Or so that gold makes its way into the open market, helping to keep the price of gold reasonable, right? Doing actually the Fed's job of helping keep the physical gold market relatively liquid so that the LBMA, the CRIMEX, and GLD and everybody can run their paper gold scheme, and price of gold was suppressed. Well, lo and behold, about 3 days later, Joe Biden, I think it was actually that Friday, Joe Biden comes out and says, we're going to sanction and ban the sanction anybody who imports Russian gold. Now, why is this a big deal? Virtue signaling, we're going to cost Putin tens of billions of dollars a year in gold sales, and this is dumb. Like that gold won't be bought by India or China or domestically within the Russian gold market. Just dumb. But it doesn't matter. Why did they do that? Well, they did that because I said a year ago, when I was looking over the Basel III and the changes to how gold would be dealt with under Basel III. Now, Basel III has been, for the most part, pushed off until next year. But the reporting requirements of banks and the reserve ratios of banks, and Alistair McCall, myself, and others went over this in grave detail, how this is a big deal to change the tenor of the paper gold market and force the physical gold. Now, if you force the physical price of gold to start setting the price on the market, gold is going to rise tremendously. It's going to rise very quickly. Now, who benefits from this? My understanding of it, this was my wrinkle on this here, was that, look, since the ECB marks their gold to market and their balance sheet is degrading as the price of the European sovereign debt that they hold on their balance sheet is falling because rates are rising, to offset that, they need the price of gold to rise higher. While at the same time, the Federal Reserve trying to continue to hold on to the value of the U.S. dollar as a trade settlement and reserve currency in the world by raising interest rates. Part of the reason why the other reason, in my mind, is to break the ECB. Then the Federal Reserve continues to hold its gold on its balance sheet at $42.22 an ounce, never wanting to hold the market. Doesn't want to re-legitimize gold as part of the banking system, monetary system, in any substantive way. Well, if Russian gold is making its way into Swiss refiners in order for Swiss refiners to turn them into LBMA deliverable bars, and Joe Biden, who works for Davos, doesn't want that to happen, what do? You cut off the Swiss's ability to get Russian gold, or at least raise their costs and change the supply chain in order to make it more difficult for Swiss refiners to get a hold of Russian gold in order to sell it to the LBMA, in order to keep the Ponzi scheme, paper gold Ponzi scheme. Makes perfect sense to me. That's why I tweeted out on Friday, and and the rest of the G7 immediately fell in line with this. And then, while the G7 was there, what else did the G7? Well, they also said, well, hey, we really want to put a price cap, global price cap on the price of oil. I'm going to repeat that one. They're going to put they want to put a global price cap on the price of oil. They represent 777 million people in the world. They represent a sizable amount of oil demand, but not all of the oil demand. And they're literally going to say to the market, well, no, we're not paying any more than $85 a barrel. We're not paying any, whatever the price is, which is insane. And I know there's some video going around of Emmanuel Macron having to whisper to Joe Biden, look, dude, we can't do this. It's not possible. There's no way to get OPEC to raise production. They're not going to. There's some fungibility in that discussion, which we'll talk about in more detail when we get to Odyssey in about 7 minutes or so, 10 minutes or so. So the point being here is that when you have a group of people who still think that they have the power to set the price on the market, they believe that because they're the buyer of something, they have the ability truly to set price. They really don't. They believe in monopsony buying power, and people talk about monopolies all the time because it's like we understand monopolies because we've had commies inculcating us in economic theory and economic education for the last fucking 100 years, and all they ever want to talk about is evil, rapacious capitalists setting monopoly pricing goods on the market, when the only monopolists that I see anywhere are in governments trying to set prices and guarantee profits for their corporatist political backers. This happens strongly in the West. It's almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hey, look, capitalism is broken because we broke it by turning it into communism, but then all we did was, have the commies run out there and go, see, capitalism is broken. And then we get assholes like Richard Wolff and, all the rest of them running around, screaming about the evils of capitalism. These people are literally fucking morons. So, reality is that oil and gold, by the way, oil and gold both are not products that you can ultimately sanction the way they would like. The oil market is a little bit more bifurcated. There's, light sweet, there's medium sour, there's heavy tar, there's this, there's that. There's all these different, the oil market isn't a monolithic thing. And because it's not a monolithic thing, it actually makes individual refineries, dependent upon specific sources of oil that they were tuned for based on, the contracts that they, their preferred buyers, right? So there's natural relationships that set up all around the world in a regional manner. But ultimately, you can down blend, American light sweet with Venezuelan fucking black tar and wind up with something that may approximate that somebody on the Gulf Coast of the United States may be able to substitute for Russian Urals grade, right? Or something along those lines. Or the guys over in Rotterdam. The point being is that there's no way to set the cost of that. There's no way to set the price. I'm only willing to pay X. Well, that's nice. The rest of the world is buying it at whatever price they, that's out there. It just means that you're not going to get any. What's really amounts to is that the G7 is angry that the Russians are selling their oil at $30 under the market to China and India, who are then refining that oil and sending it back as products and selling it right back to fucking Europe, thereby denying all of the refiners in Europe their crack spreads and everything else. So it's just hilarious watching these people operate. And so what they said at the end of the day, well, we're going to do this. We're going to put a ban on buying oil over a particular price. Well, that means just, you're not going to get any fucking oil. Like, you're watching people they cannot accept the fact that they've lost this battle, and we have to do whatever we have to do to virtue signal to make life tough for Vladimir Putin. And I'm like, well, it's not working. Russia's richer now than it was before, or the ruble is stronger than it was. The best way to deny Putin power is to try and crash the price of oil. But how are you going to do that if you don't increase production? Oh, but we have to save the world from climate change. I know, rock, meat, fucking hard place. This is amazing how this is. See, these insane fucking schemes that you get from these people all come down, all arise because they've created an artificial restriction on the market, which then creates all these downstream effects, which then they have to try and plug those holes, making and shifting markets away from rationality, increasing loss due to friction and costs and bureaucracy and, you know, all the rest of it. It becomes this Byzantine Kafkaesque kind of nightmare. And I, to be honest with you, this is beginning to make their behavior is beginning to look like calling what they're doing Byzantine an insult to Byzantine. Like, we're at that point now. Whether or not they think they can do demand destruction or anything else, it's insane. But it is truly just off the charts that they believe that they have this kind of power. Monopsony is the opposite of monopoly, as I was talking about earlier. Monopsonies are single buyer. Now the European Union has been trying to leverage its massive buying of Russian oil and gas as some kind of lever over the Russians for years. And they've been doing it since the fucking canceling of South Stream. They've been doing it they've been doing all of these things with changing the terms of contracts, changing the nature of changing the rules in midstream while pipelines are being built. Like, you know, going over, I could spend an hour just going over the machinations of the South, what they did with the South Stream pipeline, right? Going all the way back to that and realizing that today, everything that we're dealing with today is in many ways a downstream effect of, you know, Nord Stream 2 and Ukraine and this and that and everything else. It's all downstream effect of the fact that the United States didn't want the South Stream pipeline, and forces within the European Union didn't really want it either. Well, they wanted it, but they wanted it on their terms. They always want these things to happen only on their terms. And what they wanted was for Putin and the Russians to build the South Stream pipeline in such a way, and then change the cost structure of it in such a way that the Russians would be selling them oil and gas, or in this case, gas, at a loss in perpetuity under contract. And the Russians said no, and they canceled the pipeline. And the Europeans said, well, they'll never cancel the pipeline. They've got too much money sunk into it. Because they did the same thing with Nord Stream 2. Well, you know, it's too late now. Like, we've got the thing out there. We spent the $11 billion. Okay, what do we have to do? Who do I got to blow to get this fucking thing turned on so I can at least recoup some of my investment? This is the way they think. And the Russians just turn around and go, that's nice. The pipeline's ready whenever you want to fucking use it. It's no skin off of our ass. We made more money last month than that thing cost. So we don't care. So it's yet another $11 billion boondoggle that sits there, not benefiting humanity at all, not benefiting anybody at all, and undermining the political validity of the people who put the kibosh on it in the first place, who begged the Russians to build the fucking thing and then turned around and said, no, you can't turn it on. Like, I don't know, you know, if I was Putin, I'd nuke these people on general fucking principle. But, you know, I'm Italian. Good thing I'm not, you know, the president of Russia, because they would have already been fucking nuked. And I think the world would have rejoiced. Yeah. This is where we are. So I want you to understand that the G7 this weekend made themselves look like the biggest bunch of fucking buffoons you have seen since the last time you turned on CNN. And when you're dealing, and it's okay when you're dealing with CNN, no one watches CNN. No one lives or dies whether or not CNN tells the truth or not. But these people control the lives of hundreds of millions of people and trillions of dollars in capital, rapidly deflating capital, mind. rapidly deflating inside money capital, which isn't really actual real fucking capital, it's actual bullshit capital, which is why they're so fucking apoplectic, which is why they're acting like they are. And the rest of the world is looking at them going, I got nothing. And I can tell you that the world has looked at the G7 meeting, and then they looked at the BRICS summit, and I know where I'm putting my, if I had to guess, the response to this past week's events in most of the multi-family offices, investment house, family office investment houses around the world are looking at the situation going, yep, time to make that big move. We may look back on this G7 meeting. And this was the day that global capital decided to shift to or away from the West and towards the gold. And in a real, and like, oh wow, they really are this fucking, and they're in charge for another couple of years. All right, let's leave it there. I'm gonna put the link to the Odyssey stream in the thing. I promise I will make sure that before I walk away from the computer now. You guys be well. You take care. We'll talk soon. I'm off YouTube, and then you'll really hear what I think.